One. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the hashtag Vegas podcast. I'm your host, Ace of Vegas, and here we are with my boy, Cris from Faces and Aces podcast. Cris, say what's up.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, no worries, man. Thanks for being on the show here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and give everybody a minute. I think. Oh, and Dog wants to jump on too. We're gonna have a good show here.
Hey, Harley, I'm recording a podcast. Shut up.
Harley just wants to be involved too, I think.
Yeah, it's not even my dog, man. We're dog sitting right now.
Oh, you guys are dog
Harley,
sitting?
be a good guest.
There you go. So we have two guest stars on this episode here.
Yeah, me and Harley, we're hanging out.
All
We're
right.
chilling.
Right on. We have a Harley on our show too, actually. That pops by. My sister-in-law.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, she likes to jump in. She actually did the MGM signature tour with me, so she did that series of episodes too. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, very cool, man.
Yeah. So we did some good stuff on that episode there. I think we got our first few folks dropping into the live chat. Do we have our first few folks coming in right now? I think so. It's probably going to be just a minute. I announced the, it looks like the notifications are just coming in. Had to nod back to the boss lady. Usually takes about a minute or two before the show gets started here, so we're a little slower than it goes on your show.
Yeah, let me see. I'm going to hop in too, just so I can keep track of what's going on.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, man, this is, when I can't get to Vegas, this is the next best thing, sitting down with a buddy and talking about Vegas.
There we go. That's how we do there. So, we'll go ahead and give it just another minute. I haven't seen Ismail pop in. He's usually the first one on the scene there. Here, we'll go ahead and
By
just
the way,
drop that
you
in
let me know. I got a little fan going, and you let me know if we hear. Does this make it sound better if I do this?
Oh, no, it sounds about the same either way. I think you got a good mic, so I'm not too worried.
Okay, cool.
All right, perfect. Here, we'll just give that just another couple seconds here. Yeah, it looks like we got two folks watching already. Yep, and Diane's already in the live chat here. I guess my computer's just a little behind. Hi, Diane. How's it going?
Hey, Diane.
All right, cool. And let's see who else is going to pop in. I think we're about ready to go ahead and start the show. I think we should probably just go ahead and start the show, and then people will trickle in as they normally do, and we'll just go ahead and catch them back up. So, just to start the show off on a high note, so as you guys know, CrisRocks, she is out today. She actually just started a new job, and she's doing a whole bunch of promotion and she's doing a lot of hard work, so we're really proud of her. So she was unable to make the show today, and our boy CrisRocks he's actually out celebrating his 29th birthday. So, mad props to my boy CG for turning 29, for being born and making it 29 years in this world. Because let's be honest, it is a tough world out there, especially being a family guy, married with kids and all that good type of stuff. It's a tough time. So he's out for some much needed R&R.
Yeah, happy birthday, buddy.
All right, good deal. But today we do have a special treat. We have my buddy Cris here from the Faces and Aces podcast. So Cris, tell them about yourself. I got your card up over here. Let's go ahead and talk about you for a minute. Tell us about your show, what you do, where you come from, what got you into Vegas.
Oh, well, let's see. I live in L.A. and I've been driving out to Vegas ever since I was a young pup. I was just talking to my wife earlier today saying, man, I wish I still had that picture when I was 5 and the whole family took a trip out to Vegas. Like, you got little mop-headed me out in front of Circus with my folks and brother. So I've had a long time love affair with Vegas, and I just, at some point, you get that bug, you want to talk about it with your friends, and, only a certain elite group you can talk about Vegas with. And so I started a podcast with those people. And then at a certain point, they decided they didn't want to podcast anymore. So I said, all right, well, I still want to do this. So I kept going with the podcast. And here I am 4 years later doing a Vegas podcast and meeting great people like yourself.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's actually how I got turned on to it too. I showed up and we're checking out some win slots things and found me that way. And, we've been talking and you've been doing some great things. You've actually been very instrumental in putting this podcast together. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you.
Oh, hey, man, anytime I can pitch in and help. But I mean, I've done very little. I've like picked one or two little tiny pieces of advice. Most of this has been you, man.
Hey, man, it's all that, it's the little things that help. It takes a village, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We all come together. And that's one of the things I love about Vegas. You make a whole bunch of cool friends and you have that in common. You have the city in common.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get really hyped, where's a good place where people can find you if they enjoy today's podcast? Where can they catch up with you doing more stuff? Because I only do the podcast once every 2 weeks or so, give or take schedules. You're a bit more consistent. So where can they get some more consistent hardcore podcast action?
Oh, consistency is definitely not an adjective you could attach to me. I do the podcast in short spurts. Usually I'll do maybe 8 episodes and then take a break for a couple months and then do another 8, take another break. The reason being it's a difficult podcast to put together because the premise is I have to hunt down people who have great Vegas stories. And then once I record those stories, I will go out to Vegas, and based on some element of that story, I'll try to find someone to interview in Vegas who can either shed some further light on it or it relates to the story in some way. So I pair those 2 interviews together for a general topic. So if you're looking for that kind of a Vegas show, you can find it pretty much on any podcast player, iTunes, or I guess it's Apple Music now, Stitcher, Spotify, all those places. And then also you could take a look at the website, facesandaceslv.com.
Good deal. Yeah, okay. And I think we actually have a link to that in the description box below if I did my prep work correctly for once. Harley sounds like Harley agrees. Harley's going to be our other co-host today.
Yeah, we're gonna lock him in the room.
Right, there we go. Bring Harley back in.
Yeah, Harley, come here, man. All right. Yeah,
All right, good deal. Well, while we're working on that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a breakdown of what's going to go on today's podcast. So today, we're going to go ahead and discuss the Palms Hotel and Casino with Station and how much trouble they're in right now. As it turns out, they're dealing with a little bit of a strike that's related to the earlier strike this year. And also, we're going to go ahead and discuss a more controversial topic. Kids in Vegas, yes or no? So let's go ahead and get started on that. Oh, looks like our boy Ismail is in. He's usually first on the scene here. Sup, Izzy? And we're going to go ahead and get started with this podcast over here. So, let's go ahead and start up with the Palms over here.
Okay. Do you want to do the header, or how do you want to go?
Oh, I'll go ahead and break down the article over here. So we did get an article. It was from news3lv.com, and the headline is National Workers Group to join Vegas casino workers as they picket the Palms outside. And here's the abridged version. So the Culinary Union and the Palms Resort are still in negotiations about the workers' rights to unionize is kind of the biggest thing. So they put in a vote for it, is basically what it came down to, and I think it was an overwhelming vote. It was like an 84% vote of workers that said, yes, let's unionize. Let's go ahead and get some protection from our jobs. Let's get some consistent raises. Let's get some proper cost of living raises, all that good stuff, and some extra protections. Obviously, there's some downsides to unions, like you got fees and dues and all that good type of stuff, but you know it. Hey, there's always an upside and a downside to everything. It sounded like to the workers there were more upsides than downsides, and they voted for it. And Stations promised that they'd jump in there and they'd be like, okay, if our workers say this, we're going to go ahead and do exactly what our workers say. And it turns out Station is lying. So now the Palms is in some pretty serious hot water over it.
Yeah, just a couple little other pieces to add to it. I guess the union also wanted, one of the sticking points is they wanted to add into the proposed contract language including workplace safety, sexual harassment, subcontracting, technology, and immigration. So those are deals or little details that they are trying to figure out. However, Stations casinos will not meet them at the table to figure those details out.
Yeah, which is a really troubling thing, too. It's not even that they won't follow up on the promise. They're just not even willing to negotiate. They don't even want to talk about it. And, how do you feel all about this, Cris? What do you think? Because I know you're a Palms player, right? You've played up the Palms a little bit, right? And with Station in general. Is that correct?
Well, I had pretty much played at Caesars properties for the most part, but I kind of dedicated 2019 into setting up trying to start to earn comps at other properties outside of Caesars and MGM. And so I had focused on Palms since it was part of the Stations casinos now. Uh-huh. And, that way I could stay at one of the Stations properties. And now this thing is happening and I'm kind of like, oh, well, I don't know if I could play there. I spent all this time this year and I just started getting comps from them and now there's a strike and I'm like, I don't know if I want to cross the strike line.
Yeah, it's a tough thing that I don't think I could cross a picket line, honestly, not in this case over here. And I remember we were talking about it a little earlier this year, because I'm sure you remember that there was a threat. Was it this year or was it last summer? I'm trying to remember, but there was a threat for MGM and Caesars for their casino workers to go on strike too, because they hadn't reached an agreement.
Correct, right. There was the same contract that had expired throughout all the casinos on June 1st of 2018, and the other casinos did come to some sort of agreement. However, Stations casinos had not.
Right, yeah, because their contract hadn't fully expired at the point, I think I recall, but now that it's up, it kind of makes you wonder. So what do you think Palm's plan is here? What do you think Stations' plan is?
It's hard to say because Stations Casinos has notoriously been anti-union since the beginning. None of their properties honor, well, with the exception of one, I believe, honors the unions on their properties. So it's hard to say what they're going to do. Seems as though the demands are reasonable. I think they also asked for a small wage increase.
Yeah, which is pretty standard,
Yeah. However, in the case of unions, it's a difficult topic, whereas conceptually, I think unions are a good thing. However, you take a look at the unions out here in LA, and they've kind of run amok.
I believe that.
in terms of Hollywood.
Yeah.
No,
I believe you. No, I was thinking about that too. I remember the only time I've ever been threatened, quote unquote, with a union was when I was a kid working at Best Buy. And all things considered, I think that could have been the best thing that would have ever happened to us if it ever came down to a vote or anything. I think it was always kind of looming, but it never actually came up, which is a super bizarre thing. I always thought it kind of gave me the idea that someone at the top suppressed it because they didn't pay us terribly well over there. They had like a cap of, I think, something like $12 an hour for being on the sales floor in general. So God forbid.
Yeah, as well as you have the protections of the state with a minimum wage.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing too. Yeah, like the protections and all that, and that's what really kind of disturbs me about the Palms. Like we were talking a little bit on your podcast the other day. If you guys missed that, I put that in the community post. I'll go ahead and make sure to link that a little later on after this too. But we talked about privacy and security, especially sexual harassment and all that, and it came up that other casinos, like which property was it? It was at DEF CON. Was it at Caesar's Palace, or which property was it? You know what I'm talking about here.
It was one of the Caesar's property. The incident that happened last year, I think it was at Paris.
Oh yeah, the one at Paris. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, either way, no matter where it was wrong for sure.
But yeah, definitely a Caesar's property.
Yeah. So at one of the Caesar's properties, what had happened is, they had security guards just kind of running in, and they'd actually walk in on people. Like they do room checks, obviously, since October 1st happened a couple years ago. Now the casinos are all doing room checks. They're apparently supposed to plan them around when people are out, but they can just pop in at any time, really, just for safety's sake. But they've been popping in on people while they're been in the room, either asleep or in some cases partially indisposed. Like they've been walking on people, especially young ladies that are showering by themselves or getting changed by themselves or traveling by themselves for business or what have you, and that's been coming up. So that kind of ties back into the Palms thing, because sexual harassment protection is a big thing for them, because that does happen in the casinos a lot, especially with cocktail waitresses.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a little roundabout the way I got back to that, but yeah.
Yeah, it does happen to a lot of the cocktail waitresses, and we're talking about not only from, say, harassment from the guests, protection from that, but also from fellow employees. And I think that's probably where a majority of it comes from.
Yeah, and it's such a disturbing thing that they put it in the contract, put it in the language as it should be, but just the fact that they don't want to talk about it. And I understand it's not a fun thing to talk about. There are a lot of things that we talk about that aren't fun, but still, it's a protection for your employees, the people that are making you the money and, keeping your business afloat. And it kind of makes you wonder, what's their end game here? Are they trying to burn these people out so that they just come back and they never have to deal with it? It's a money thing. I mean, what's really going on here?
It's a real head scratcher, especially in today's day and age where you have the whole Me Too movement. That seems to be a tidal wave, but for some reason they don't want to buckle at all. And to me, a lot of the demands that they're making are very just common sense, reasonable demands. And so I would think that Stations casinos would come around to a logical way of thinking. But this is the type of behavior from a major casino that me, as a guest of Las Vegas and a visitor, would make me want to shy away until they get this settled out.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's not like this is a new thing for Palms, too. I mean, even back in May, they've been, a lot of the regulations boards have been filing orders and lawsuits against them because they've been in violation of a lot of labor laws, as it turns out. Mm-hmm. And they've been dealing with that for a while.
Yeah, as well as the station casinos was a court ruled that they need to come back to the table, and they still haven't done it yet.
Right,
So
and what's the word right now? They're trying to push it up to the Supreme Court, and I'm sure the Supreme Court's going to rule with them too, because literally every other court up to this point has done it. And the higher up you get on the federal level, it's just a question of, well, you've already lost this case like 6 or 7 times. All these people have all this stuff against. Like, what would you have going on for yourselves, your station? And they're going to have to buckle eventually.
Yeah, and one would hope that the union, and I'm not terribly familiar with the behavior of the unions in Las Vegas. I'm sure there are people out there who know better than I do, but as far as I know, they haven't engaged in horrible, terrible behavior towards, I've maybe made some slightly unreasonable requests, but I've never seen anything egregious. So on this one, I would definitely side with the unions. However, my opinion can change as I get more information. If I find out that they want, we want, $50 an hour wages or something ridiculous, of course,
Oh, no, absolutely. But, everything I've read, it's just been about, and it looks like it's the same as the other culinary union requests last year. Something like 4% or 4 or 5% raise every year for however long. And then, just these mandated lunch breaks, protection against, but the big thing was definitely protection against sexual harassment was one. And another one was automation. That was another big one that just kind of popped in, is automation.
Yeah, now in terms of technology and making your stay a little bit easier, are you okay with having to interact with a person, or would you prefer to go to a kiosk to, say, get a replacement player's card?
Honestly, I think there are things that are great about automation. I've been to a couple places like Cosmo, for example. They have the Tipsy Robot. Or not, is that Cosmo? I think it's Planet Hollywood, sorry. They have the Tipsy Robot on there. And it's a fun little bar, and it's cool that the robot makes the stuff. You just walk up to the thing, and actually we went to Taco Bell a little earlier, and I used the giant iPad to go ahead and order lunch, and that was cool too. But frankly, it's just so much better having a person because they're empowered to make your stay better, and machines are not empowered to make your stay better. And I'm much more willing to take the extra 2 minutes. Like if I can filibuster for a second, let's just say check-in clerks. So the folks at the front desk. So a check-in at a kiosk is so different compared to one at the front desk because if you're at the kiosk, it's got a preset it's got a preset schedule. It's going to say, okay, you're going to check in here. This is your room. Here is an upgrade. Are you interested in this? Yes. You will pay another $35. No. We will move on. Have a nice day. So on and so forth. And that's, it's efficient. That's nice. But, you get up to a person, you smile. I mean, you can tip them a couple bucks and, you can talk to them about things like, hey, are there any complimentary upgrades? Is there anything cool going on in town? Hey, I've got a first timer over here. I need some recommendations. And there's just this, there's this good energy, and it starts your vacation off right. And they're empowered to make your stay better. A machine isn't going to make your stay better, but a person might say, oh yeah, there's this great sale on tickets right now. Here, go see my buddy Isaac down here down here at Will Call. He'll go ahead and hook you up with a good 40% off. He's going to get you some great tickets to see Blue Man Group, and you're going to have a much better time, frankly.
Yeah, but by the way, I just have to interject. That was a kick-ass robot voice, man.
Decepticons, roll out.
we still get robot voices to sound like Scarlett Johansson from the movie Her.
Wouldn't that be nice? I'll tell you.
Now, if all the kiosks in Vegas sounded like that, I'm sorry, humans, but you guys got to go.
See, I can work with that. I think that's how all of them should sound there. Natalie Portman. I think Natalie Portman. If there was a Natalie Portman robot coming up to bring me the towels or whatever it is I ordered from room service, that'd be cool. I could get behind that.
But just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I remember back in the day when you used to have to take your coins up to the cashier to get them counted out, or have to take your paper tickets up to the cashier to get them counted out. I don't know if I would enjoy going to a casino that didn't have a change machine, or even I like the option at the check-in desk when the line is snaking around, through the casino to check in. I'm just going to pop over to the kiosk. I'm tired. I'm not looking for any room upgrades. I just want my room.
Okay, and I can recognize that for sure. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think there are some advantages to it, and that's one of the things that we as the consumer have to keep in mind. If the unions do get their way, of course, they're going to fight for jobs, rightfully so, but that also means that you and I, as the guests of the hotel, are going to have to make some compromises and sacrifices as well. Are we willing to do that?
Oh, this is true. Well, I guess another question is, I mean, ultimately it'll probably be cheaper for everyone. I've seen the drink robots; they look neat, but I just love the customizability and the, just the flexibility of having a human there. Like, I can't tell R2D2 that, I want my martini shaken, not stirred, even though a shaken margarita is, or margarita, a shaken martini is worse because that breaks down the ice. It makes it bad. Trust me.
Yeah.
Bond is wrong.
Yeah. Boy, I think there always has to be some kind of balance. And I've said this before. I went to Ellis Island and they have a little kiosk where if you need a player's card, you just walk up to it and get one printed, boom, done in about 30, 40 seconds, as opposed to, say, going to Paris over at a Caesars property and having to stand in that line because you forgot your player's card. And sometimes you got to wait for the idiot in front of you who's drunk and doesn't have their ID. And, it takes a good 10, 15 minutes sometimes to get a new player's card.
I understand. I had the same problem, actually, last year when I went to Signature, because we all stayed out, we drank a bit, and I left it actually in a blackjack machine because we wanted to try the video blackjack. And about 6 hands in, we realized it was rigged, so we quit. And I totally forgot about it, and I did have to go down and get another card, and it did take me a while. And I can see for little things like that, it would be a good thing. I don't mind seeing Elvis and Priscilla at the Vidar. If I just need a towel, I can press a button, and they'll come up with a towel. I think that's great. But I think for anything a little more complex, for now, anything that requires any amount of customizability or anything that requires a gray area, we still do need a person. And like where you're thinking like, hey, is there an upgrade or is there anything special like that? I mean, if I've already got my tickets and all that, I'm just going to print them, email on my phone. Problem solved. I don't need a will call desk for my tickets, but I do need a front check-in desk. Absolutely.
Okay, right, because you like to do the $20.
I do like to do the $20 technique, and you know what? They'll think about things like, again, sorry to keep bringing up my trip to the Signature, but when I took our Harley over, the lady was nice enough. She said, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and upgrade you guys over here. It's your little sister's first time in Vegas. Good times. Oh, also here, have a couple bottles of water. I know those Fijis up there are like $20 a piece, and you're taking care of us down here. Have a couple of these over here. These are from the fitness center, and you can just go ahead and go down here. Here's your code for the fitness center. Bada bing, bada boom. There's so many things that they thought of and took care of straight up, and nothing beats quality customer service. I think that is the strongest weapon in the service industry, and this is the service industry.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I just wanted to shout out Hawk and Tucson. I see that they think they were right about this topic.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you guys did such a great job on that last podcast when you guys were when they guest starred on your show pretty recently too.
Oh man, we all got to hang out in Vegas one of these days. That's all what it comes down to. You
just a big
friends.
Vegas tuber convention is what we got to do.
Exactly. Set the calendar 2020, sometime in 2020.
2020 for sure. Yeah, actually, let's talk about that off the air too. We should talk about that. We should plan that.
All right, Hog, we'll call you, man.
All right, we got you, brother.
All right. So, I mean, do you feel like we covered this topic?
No, I'm feeling pretty convinced. So, final thoughts. What do you think? What do we got to do with? Oh yeah, around the Circa. Yeah, the Circa Casino. That's a good idea. But what does Palms got to do here? What's your final thought? What do you think Palms should do?
It's you know what? It's hard to say because my opinion really doesn't matter because Stations casinos, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Oh yeah, but this is my show. Or everyone's opinion matters because it's fun. We're not casino moguls. Come on, tell us what you think.
I mean, I think personally, I think they should sit down at the very least, sit down at the table, start negotiating. I don't see what the real harm is in coming down on the side of, hey, let's make sure there's no sexual harassment in our casino. That one seems like a no-brainer.
Right? Pay our people, make sure they're safe. Simple things. I think I got to agree with you on this one. Sorry to have this be an echo chamber, but if nothing else, they have to sit down and negotiate. Frankly, at this point, because they've made such a big stink out of it, and there have been so many big fights about it, and I know they're just dragging it out to protect themselves financially somewhere. I don't know how. I don't know where it's going to cost them extra, aside from maybe labor costs or whatever benefits. But they just need to break down. Maybe they push down maybe 1% on whatever pay raise, just given to everything else. Let it be so that everybody doesn't think that they're a bunch of smarmy casino corporate corrupt executives, which they already are, but at least just to save some face, so people will eventually go back to the Palms and not everybody loses their job because the place, closes down.
Yeah, well, the place might never close down, but
Not like that. It's not quite like that,
yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it really does put into question: am I going to stop by the Palms when I go to Vegas next weekend? I don't know.
How do you feel about it?
Know.
I mean, you feeling comfortable there? You feeling comfortable knowing that if your wife worked there, that she wouldn't be protected from sexual harassment? If your daughter worked there, that she wouldn't be protected from anything? If your son worked there, he wouldn't be getting a raise or also be protected from sexual harassment? Because, let's be honest, it happens to guys too.
Well, I mean, I've taken a moral stance against staying at MGM resorts, and so I would be consistent, I think, and take a moral stance. And it looks like this trip I'm playing at the Plaza.
All right, Plaza it is. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and switch topics then. Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about kids a little bit here. So, Cris, you have kids?
I do not have any kids.
I don't have any kids. Okay. I know that CG, he has kids. I have kids, and CrisRocks, I don't think she has kids. So actually, if the lot of us were on here, this would be okay. So I guess I'm the kid side, and you're the not so kid side. So here's the question:
Yeah.
If you had kids, would you bring them to Las Vegas? Because you said you've been a kid in Las Vegas before. Your parents brought you to Circus and all that, and you've had a good time. Tell us about your experience as a child in Vegas.
As a child, I mean, we're talking about, Vegas in the 70s, Dean Martin's playing on the Strip and hanging out at Circus. And most of the time that I spent as a kid in Vegas was in the arcades. And so, there weren't a lot of family-friendly things to do. But I did have a good time. And, if we flash forward to today, there are a lot of family-friendly things to do in and around the Strip. I don't necessarily know if Vegas is the city for kids. I wouldn't blame anybody if they want to get away as a family and go to the Strip, but it's not something that I would personally do. Or if I did have kids and went to Las Vegas, we would probably get an Airbnb somewhere in Henderson or Summerlin. And then, go with a family group, and then at a certain point, get the babysitter, they watch the kids, and the adults head off to the Strip.
Definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's a tough thing for me, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna bring it up because I set this up because it's something that came up in my personal life. So I'm actually using this as a platform to make a personal decision for myself. So live chat, I apologize. Cris, I apologize. This is really just for me more than anything else.
All right. Okay.
But no. Let's talk about it a little bit. So, remember I was in the car the other day with my daughter, and we picked up her cousin, my niece, and we were driving around. We were talking about like flying off, and I was telling her I was working on my show because my niece now wants to be a YouTuber for some reason. I told her, no, that's a bad idea. It's not very lucrative at all. I've certainly not quit my day job. So I'm telling her it's not a super great idea, but she's a small child. She's passionate and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and all that. So I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, yeah, you have to take us filming sometime, like in Vegas. And I thought about it, and I was thinking about all the family-friendly things that they have now. They have the shark reef at Mandalay Bay. They have the dolphin habitat at Mirage. They have the flamingo habitat at the Flamingo. Resorts World's coming up pretty soon, and they're gonna have this movie theater, and then they're gonna have the panda exhibit and all these cute fluffy things, all that good type of stuff. So
yeah, tigers at the Mirage.
And it's really got to thinking about it, but at the same time, I also walk down the Strip, and I like to walk recreationally down the Strip, and sometimes it's like a 4 or 5 mile walk too. And I think about everything I see on the Strip. There is a lot. There's a lot of stuff that me being selfish as a parent and as an adult, that I'm not sure if I know how to present to my children yet. A lot of there's a fair amount of homelessness. There's which within of itself isn't a bad thing. We've talked about that at length too, but there's also a few other things that I'm not entirely ready to address properly, like drugs. There's a lot of sexuality on the Strip too. I have no idea how I'd explain how I'd explain girls direct to your room. Those big trucks are driving by every 15 minutes. I don't know how to explain that.
You could take Rita Rutner's route, and when her daughter asked her, "Mommy, why are those women on those trucks?" she said to her kid, "Honey, that's what happens when you don't pay attention in school."
You know, they say that, but I paid attention a lot in school. I'm pretty sure those girls make a lot more money than me, if we're being honest. So maybe they're on to something. Well, let's open it up to the live chat a little bit before we get too deep into this. Diane's got 2 cents on this, if you don't mind. Or actually, Cris, you want to go ahead and read off her comment?
Why don't you go ahead? Because I'm looking off of an iPhone.
You're looking off the iPhone.
It's really tiny.
Right.
I'm looking off of an iPhone. Yeah,
all right,
you got
cool.
your computer in front of you.
All right, well, let's see what Diane says. So Diane says, yes, but keep an eye on them. I watched a couple doing inappropriate things in front of about a 12-year-old in a hot tub. I have no clue who the parents were, but I jumped in the hot tub to interrupt. Where are the parents? Are the women in those trucks? That's another question, too. That's a good one. Yeah, let's see, there's a good one. So it is definitely an adult sort of place there in Vegas. And, I'm not sure. And Diane is clearly a saint, because I definitely wouldn't have blocked a brother or, swatted a sister that was trying to get the groove on, because they're being adults. They're 2 consenting adults, whatever. Yeah. If they're 2 consenting adults, you do what you do, take it back up to the room. I mean, I definitely recommend going up to the room, but Vegas, it's not the weirdest thing I've seen there. I've been to the Hard Rock. I know how it is. No, it makes you think, though, because there's some things it's hard not to expose. It's really hard not to expose your kids to stuff like that out there, stuff that you might not be comfortable with, like the excessive alcohol use, the marijuana use, if you're not comfortable with that. Obviously the rampant, selling of sex, because that's what happens. Even if we're ignoring the girls on the trading cards and all that, there's still the adult shows out there, and there are a lot of strippers that are being advertised out there. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it might not be something that you want your children privy to, and I can understand that.
Yeah, and Hogg makes a good point about, if you're going to Vegas, is this going to be a kid's trip or is this going to be an adult's trip?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You kind of have to make that decision before you get there so you can plan the itinerary. They found a wonderful place off-strip that has a really cool 3D art museum that you could do a whole bunch of selfies in, and that one's perfectly suited for kids, and you could spend hours doing it. I mean, there's also a really fun thing over at the Venetian where you do the Star Wars virtual reality.
Okay.
And they also have a Ghostbusters virtual reality now. Those things are a lot of fun and well suited for kids. But I think you have to really determine, and plot out and strategize how you're going to make Vegas appropriate for kids. Now, just for the sake of devil's advocate, and just to throw a little bit of hot talk in there,
all right,
I'm going to go ahead and take the stance of, man, you know what? I don't want to see kids in Vegas, and I'll explain to you why. Because this is an adult town. I want to curse, I want to smoke, I want to drink. I don't want to have to mind my P's and Q's. That's what Vegas is about. And I want to be that guy and have a good time without any consideration. And if I'm swearing and your kids happen to hear it, hey, this is an adult town.
And I'm being a family guy, I want to fight that, but realistically, no, I completely agree with you, and I'm not going to lie to you. This is why my daughter does not watch my channel. I do not let her. My niece asks about it all the time, and I'm like, no, you can watch the old Yu-Gi-Oh channel. That was fun and cute stuff, but this is not for her. There's gambling. There's alcohol. We like to swear a spit. I'm always drinking a beer during these things over here. Got a Blue Moon today, which is actually locally brewed here in Denver. Just a little plug for them. I'm not getting paid for it. I just like to mention it. And no, I do. I understand that too, because it's your vacation, and I guess you could make that argument pretty much everywhere except for I don't know, maybe Disneyland or whatever. But if you're an adult, you paid your money, you're on your time. This is casinos are 21 and up. A lot of places are very 21 and up and geared to be 21 and up in Vegas. And if you're going in there being 21 and up and you got someone being like 14. That's just kind of on them at that point.
Yeah, by the way, I just want to make it clear, I was role-playing. That's not me. That's totally not me.
No, I feel it. But no, it's a valid point. Sides. It is a valid point. It's harsh, but it's valid.
Yeah, we got to hear both sides. And also, if I were going to Walt Disney World, which is a good-sized property as well, my behavior is going to be accordingly. I am going to mind my P's and Q's and please and thank yous and politeness and all of that type of stuff, because you want to set it a good example, because there are a lot of kids there. I wouldn't curse and drink and, smoke and do all those things in front of children, and that's the place for it. However, Vegas, for the longest time, was that. And some would argue that it still is, even though they had that little brief thing during the 90s when they tried to make it family friendly.
Oh God, in what was his name? Chevy Chase ripped that apart in Vegas Vacation. I think that was the whole moral of that story, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. Got another one, not in the live chat, but from a personal chat over here, my buddy Curtis. And he says, kids see more things on TV nowadays than they might on the strip. Just my opinion. So actually, Curtis, I might toss this out to you, man, because I know you're a family guy and you bring I know your adult children have come with you, because his children are young men and women now, and they've come with him to Vegas. He's even got one of them playing my Vegas and he's throwing my videos at him just like nonstop. So thank you for that, Curtis. No, he's so he makes a good point. There is a lot out there for kids, and they're very connected right now. Because you'd be surprised at what you find on YouTube. And actually, do you know what TikTok is?
I don't know.
All right, this is another thing that my niece is obsessed with. It's kind of like, do you remember what Vine is?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's basically Vine, only it's terrible. No, that's it. It's these little 15-second videos, and these kids doing the like lip syncs of pop culture things. They used to have two of them. There was a Musical.ly and there was a TikTok. I'm not sure whatever happened to that Musical.ly, but it looks like they're basically both the same app right now. And no, there's not a content filter on it, so you can't really filter out bad language because the thing doesn't have that. You can't filter out sexual content. I don't think they have actual nudity on there or anything like that, but they don't have a filter for that. They don't have like a kids mode for it, and kids are really connected. Every other kid that you see out there has got a smartphone. Some of them have smartphones better than mine.
Yeah, but I would argue that if your kids are exposing themselves to all of that, that's on the parent. In the same way that you have to protect your children in going to Vegas. If there is stuff that you don't want them to see, then you don't take them to certain parts of Vegas. And if there's stuff that you don't want them to see online or on their phones, then you need to do your job and put in the filters and that type of stuff. It is all out there, but that's the job of the parent to step in and let them see and not see what they feel is appropriate.
Yeah, which is another reason that I keep thinking about that, because from my perspective personally, just thinking about it, because so my little one, she's 5, coming up on 6, but she's 5 right now, and I think about things, and every time I think about it, I think about one thing that she could do, and then like 6 things that she can't do. One thing she can do, we can take her to go see the tigers at Mirage. She loves cats, she loves tigers, she loves the dolphins, she'll have a good time with that. Another thing we can do, take her out to see the volcano. That'd be a good time too. We can take her to the Stratosphere, and then we can play in the arcade there, and then go on a couple of rides. But at the same time, she can't go see the Crazy Girls show with me. She can't go see a Cirque du Soleil show with me, because those are, while they're very artistic, acrobatic, beautiful, those are very adult shows, especially Zumanity, which is the most recent one I saw. And God, is that an awkward one to see by yourself? Let me tell you that. Have you ever seen a Cirque show by yourself, Cris?
No, I've never gone to a Cirque show by myself, but now if I am going to one by myself, it's going to be Zumanity.
Oh God, just watching a review on it. I was like, it is such an awkward show to watch by yourself. Like, not so much that I'm embarrassed by it and all that. I mean, everyone's 21, everyone's drinking. I didn't really care, but it's just it's not quite as much fun. I don't think. I think it's more of a couples or a group experience, but definitely give it a shot.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna buy a trench coat and sunglasses too.
Oh no, don't do that. Come on now, do it full ass or don't do it at all, man. Just come out, hand out your business card. Hey, Faces and Aces, we're gonna go ahead and review this later. You guys sit down with me now, okay?
we're all one group now. Okay?
Exactly.
Cool,
there you go.
Right?
Make it an experience for the viewers. But no, I was thinking. Yeah, I think about things like that. Also, you can't go out after the sun goes down either.
Yeah, that's another good point. I just wanted to throw in, you were throwing out a bunch of good stuff to do with the family, and I hope at some point someone goes back and listens to this, because there are a number. We've thrown out a bunch of good ideas. A couple more. Go catch a magic show. Jen Kramer has a wonderful family-friendly magic show, and so does Matt King. Both of those are all ages appropriate and fun for the whole family.
Okay, so that's a good family one. So Mason chimed in with a question, quote, "Yo, what can a teenager do at Vegas? I can't think of a thing a teenager can do." Now thinking about that, except an arcade, but most 16 and 17-year-olds aren't in. Oh, I mean, that's kind of debatable. I mean, I'm interested in arcades. I like arcades. I was like that when I was 16 and 17 too, but I also had a PlayStation 2 and a Nintendo back then. But either way, while we're talking about it, what can a teenager do out there?
Okay, here's what you do. You go outside in front of Casino Royale. You'll see a guy with a sandwich. He's wearing a sandwich board. You tell him Mr. Papa Giorgio sent you. You flip up that sandwich board, and you get a nice ID taken, and then you can play all up and down. I've seen a documentary about
it. We interrupt hashtag Vegas Podcast to bring you Vegas Vacation.
I think the Star Wars virtual reality, like I brought it up before, that's good for a teenager. Depends on what your teenager is into. There's the lion habitat. Maybe that skews a little bit younger as well. There are some great hiking trails if you head out to Red Rock or White Dome.
Mount Charleston's excellent too.
Yeah.
Hog-2 they brought in escape rooms. They can do the escape rooms. I think that's something you can do when you're 17.
Sure. Right, over at Heads Up, which is the place that they were with the 3D art museum. What else? I mean, there's definitely a bunch of nature type stuff.
You can do some concerts.
Kayaking over at
Planet Hollywood
Cave.
would be good. You can see Gwen Stefani.
Yeah, I don't know what age group that would be for though.
I think that's for me. That's for me. Gwen Stefani is for me.
No, I mean there might be an age restriction. I don't know if you could go as a teenager. I'm not sure.
We'd have to look into that, definitely. Let's see. Oh yeah, pools are always safe. Yeah, definitely can. Yeah, the pools are family as long as you're not going to an adults only pool, obviously. And the roller coasters. There's another thing. Wait, what was that last one?
How's that?
I think you gotta be 18 and up for Sapphire.
Yeah. Well, 18 is a teenager. So.
I guess technically, okay, fair enough. I guess we're talking like high schools, like senior in high school. You're going to the prom next week.
Yeah. But roller coasters, that's another good one. The one over in New York, they got the virtual reality set on it now.
Oh God, my spouse dragged me on that while we were drunk in January. That was amazing.
Oh yeah.
So like, babe, let's go. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that's a little risky because if you're drunk, that roller coaster might move some stuff around that you don't want moved around.
No, I still haven't found my gallbladder. I'm still missing. That was a year and a half ago. But no, that's a good because Stratosphere actually they have some great thrill rides on the top of the tower there. So that's another good thing. So sightseeing, I guess you can take a teenager sightseeing, but I feel like the teenage years, it's going to be rough because you're just going to be kind of in between, like where you're like, oh, there's stuff going on at night. Because you could take a teen out at night, and you don't have to explain what's going on the strip. You don't have to explain the girls and you don't have to explain the showgirl. You don't have to explain why the guy's walking around in a diaper with angel wings on, because that's the thing that happens. Just FYI, they're not all just dressed as Spider-Man and the Mad Hatter. I've seen that. No, I've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it all the time. I met Chewbacca once down there too. That was pretty dope.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Hog agrees. Emerald Cove. Yeah. So that's another really cool one.
I don't think I've been to Emerald Cove.
It's about an hour and a half off strip, and you go do some kayaking, and it's gorgeous green water. You got to look that up. If kayaking is your thing, or doing something a little bit sporty and adventurous, definitely check that out.
I'm actually looking it up right now. It goes to the Colorado River, goes through there. Oh, I could start here and then just meet you guys in Vegas. I'm gonna kayak to Vegas next time.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just do your kids a favor. Don't do the damn tour.
No.
Well, I mean, teenager, like I think an adult you would appreciate everything, but as a teenager, it's one of those tours you get dragged on that you're just like, oh, come on, do we really have to do this?
Right. No, I feel you. Oh yeah, there's another thing, Grand Canyon. You can take them out to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
If you can sit with your kids in like 4 hours in a car in 110 degree heat.
There's some go-karting and what do you call it? There's a really cool thing, and it used to be called Adventure Combat Ops, but they recently changed the name.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about there. Is that the one where they get the paintball arena? Is that the paintball one, or is that the one where you get the actual assault rifles?
You get the actual airsoft assault rifles that shoot pellets, and they put you in this giant warehouse that's been made to look like a street that's been taken over by zombies. So you have cars that are overturned, houses that are spray painted. Like all of this is built in a huge warehouse. Looks like an elaborate Hollywood set. And you go in when you get about half an hour's worth of training from someone who used to be former military. And former SEAL, I believe, actually. And so they show you how to properly use your weapon, how to kick in doors, all those things. And then when it's time to go, you're going through your training, all of a sudden these alarms go off, and then you're right into it. They say zombie outbreak happened, follow me, and you're in full. You could either pay for just guns and helmet, or you could pay for full fatigues with extra clips, and you're on a mission.
Man, that sounds intense. I like that. All right.
And it's really cool. I think it's about $200, and it lasts for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and it's an amazing experience.
All right. Well, I guess I'm thinking about this a little too narrowly here, all things considered. So let me ask you this. So if you were to, so let's like, take your fictional kids, or do you have nieces and nephews, anything like that?
I do, and a little funny. I do have a couple of nieces that my sister doesn't mind taking to Vegas. And one time, back here in California, they rented a car,
Right.
and someone had been previously smoking in the car. And my niece got in the car. She said, "Ew, it smells like Vegas in here."
Interesting.
So the short answer is yes, I do have nieces.
Nice. So if you were to take them, if you were to take your nieces, assuming because I'm sure they're teenagers at this point, right?
One of them is a teenager, tween, teen, and youngin.
Okay, gotcha. So if you were dragging them to Vegas, if Uncle Cris was taking them to Vegas, would you take them to the Strip? Would you take them to Fremont? Or would you spend your time off Strip, would you say?
I would definitely do off strip, but I do have to add that one of my nieces, her favorite thing to do is the Mandalay Bay Lazy River.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to do, too. All right, I'm down with that. I can see that. I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, my sister, when they go, they always stay at Mandalay, and they get to, buy an inner tube and just hang out there at the beach, and they have a good time. So, I mean, personally, I would spend most of my time off strip doing all the off strip activities, and they would have a blast. But, there are ways to do it on strip. It's possible.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, then now it definitely got me thinking about it, because if I did decide, I definitely wouldn't pick Fremont. Definitely wouldn't pick Fremont. I was thinking either Green Valley Ranch, because it's a very nice resort. It doesn't have a lot for kids there, but it would definitely facilitate doing a lot of off-strip activities there. But at the same time, I think the Mirage is very pretty, and they have, New York, actually, which I think is also a pretty family-friendly hotel. It's got a good vibe for the young crowd, not just young people in the casinos, but young people in general, because it does have the arcade and it does have the roller coaster and all. So I figured, that wouldn't be too bad. It's not too far from Mandalay, so we could take the girls to see the sharks and all that good stuff too. So I was figuring something like that. But off strip definitely does sound more appealing now that everyone's mentioned all these things that are wonderful off strip.
And honestly, I think more than Green Valley Ranch, Red Rock would probably be a little more appropriate off strip, because you could do some bowling, you could catch a movie, as well as you could go do the hiking, and you're that much closer to some of the other hiking trails. I'd probably head in that direction if I were going to do off strip.
Yeah, definitely. Curtis also brought up, too, the shows are also incredible. I remember seeing the acrobats at Circus Circus when I was in the 6th grade. BMG and Circus Circus shows expand their entertainment mindsets much more than just TV and movies, which I think is true. Yeah, you get to see those acrobatic acts, too. And I think they do have a couple family-friendly Shirk shows, too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
if I remember right, Love is... It's tame.
Oh, yeah, and it's the Beatles. Definitely got to love that, too. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. MJ1. And that's at Mandalay.
I've never seen it. Again, that one, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but that one...
No, you're stuck. You're already there.
Yeah, I don't know if I support that artist's art out of what someone may or may not have done. I'll say that.
Oh, man.
I'll let you drive the boat. If you want to head down that road, I'm more than happy to.
Let's talk. You want to get down with that? Because I know we know about Michael. I feel like we've always known about Michael. We loved Michael so much that, as Chris Rock said, we let the first kid slide. It makes you wonder. I'll say I'm not entirely sure if whatever happened was entirely his fault. I'm 100% certain that whether things happened or not, he was a pretty messed up guy. But I know there were definitely reasons for it.
Yeah, even recently, Sheryl Crow, who used to do some backup singing for him, came out and said something. So I would rather not support that art. So much art out there to support.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right, we'll just talk Beatles or Tenors of Rock or something like that.
Sure. But that's me. That's my own personal, that's me.
Oh,
to each their own. Yeah, I don't judge anybody.
All right. Definitely. Well, no, I'm thinking, when Resorts World rolls out, that'll be a good time. Oh, here's another thing. So this one pops up on the My Vegas Gifts, Guides, and Giveaways group a lot, too.
Mm-hmm.
Babies in Vegas. How do you feel about babies in Vegas? I mean, obviously Vegas has babies in them. Needless to say, babies come from places, and sometimes they're born in Vegas, whatever. But taking your baby on vacation, what do you think?
I'm all for making babies in Vegas. I'm all for that.
Watching TV, we call it watching TV.
Watching TV, yeah. Netflix and chilling.
Yes.
When it comes to walking down the strip, I get it. I mean, there's there's a touch of truth to what I was saying earlier before, where you're in Vegas, you want to have a good time. If someone's going to be going down the strip with a stroller and taking up half the sidewalk, there's that little part of you that's kind of like, I got to move the cigarette from one hand to the other and hold it behind my back because you don't want the baby to get any secondhand smoke. No. Things like that where you have to be considerate, which is what you should do. But when there's that little tinge, for me, it's maybe 5% tinge of like, this is Vegas. Why are you bringing a baby into Vegas?
Yeah, I hate the idea of taking a baby anywhere where someone might accidentally trip and spill a margarita all over their face. Not that I've ever seen that happen, but, it's gotten pretty dang close before.
Yeah, and just, the constant assault of noise and lights. And I don't really judge, unless it's evening past, say, 10 o'clock and you got your baby and your kids out on the strip, then I'm all about judging. You ain't doing that. No, take your kid upstairs, get your kid out of, after 10.
Oh, no, I've seen him out at 2.
Oh yeah.
No BS.
Horrible.
Like that was another thing that we saw on the summer trip. Like a lot of 2-year-olds just out in these little strollers at 2:00, and I can't. I just can't do that. I mean, baby at a pool, whatever. If you're gonna take a baby to Vegas, they need to be off strip, and they need to be at a resort, like a relaxation sort of resort. No casino on site. I think that's where you can take a baby to Vegas. So there's a reason for you to actually stay in your room, and then you can take off to a nice restaurant and all that good stuff too. But yeah, I just think there need to be certain adult sanctuaries, regardless, like certain high-end restaurants. I definitely wouldn't want to see a kid in, and I certainly wouldn't take my kids there.
I'm just trying to see.
Yeah, we got a lot of chatter in the live chat over here.
I'm just laughing at what Hog wrote. What if someone took a baby to
the axe throwing? Oh, good Lord. I'm sure somebody has. That's the thing. I'm sure somebody has, too, and it just hasn't come up yet. I'm just waiting for the one that says, woman accidentally drops baby when firing assault rifle at gun range in Vegas. I'm just waiting for that. Yeah. It's like those Florida man headlines.
That would be adorable if the axe throwing place had little tiny baby axes. Oh, that would be too cute.
Oh, no, that's a perfect photo opportunity. But I mean, there are definitely places obviously you can't take a kid, but are there places that are kind of borderline where you don't think you should take a kid, like a higher end restaurant? Like if I'm going to Gordon Ramsay's Steak, I don't really want to take the little ones to that. Like what do you think?
Oh, I agree 100%, and I think it's up to the restaurant to say this is not a child restaurant. Some people will do weddings where they say this is an adult affair, this is not for the kids. I think there are a certain number of restaurants in Vegas that do have the same rule.
Right.
I don't know any of them off the top of my head, but I think there should be some places for adults to go to without the expectation of children to be running around.
No, definitely, and I understand that too. Because I mean, on the one hand, I've definitely tried to, go out to eat with my little one and my spouse before too, and it's a good time. But there are certain restaurants where I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure if I want to go ahead and deal with that there. Not even just the looks, because I'll do the look too. And then part of me is like, oh, they have a kid, I have a kid, I understand. Let me just go ahead and do that. But on the other hand, it's like, no, I'm on a date night. This isn't happening. I'm not gonna listen to this the whole time. I came here to drink, tell bad jokes, and then go home and watch TV with my spouse.
Yeah, and I would also put a little bit of that onus on people with kids. If you want to go have an adult trip to Vegas and go to adult places, ask, get a sitter, get a sitter for the room. That's actually, my family loves going, like the whole family loves going to Vegas, and that's what we'll do. We'll put all the kids in a room and have, auntie and uncle or grandma and grandpa hang out with the kids while they play, and then the adults will go down and do their kind of play.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I think that sounds like a pretty good balance right there.
Yeah. I've had a lot of great family trips.
Yeah, see, I haven't tried that before. Every Vegas trip I've done has been an adults only trip. And I think I like that. I like that just because it gives me a minute to be a little more irresponsible. And I like it's a selfish thing. I'm going to admit it's a selfish thing. But I like being a little irresponsible when I'm out in Vegas, just so I can be spontaneous and I don't have to figure out, okay, can she walk this far? Do we have an extra change of clothes? When was the last time we've eaten? Have I gotten her to finish this whole water bottle, juice box? Are we gonna go ahead and have to drag this home here, that, and trying to carry a 5-year-old down 4 miles of strip, but
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that's kind of a little bit intolerant of me, but I will admit, like the people with the kids, when they bring the kids, they slow you down. We've gone with the family and we have a meal time and we have reservations, and it's always the people with the strollers who show up last.
Yep. It's time consuming. You got to pack the diaper bag. You got to make sure you got snacks. You got to make sure you got this, that, plug in the iPad or whatever, however you guys do it, bring the books and all that. And it's time consuming. And then you got to, get them buckled in and out. Also, how do you transport it? Because that obligates you to have a car. That pretty much obligates you to have a car in Vegas.
Right. And again, this is my extended family, my cousins and whatnot. So we all live in LA, and they will take the minivan, or they'll fly out and then rent a car when they get there. And man, I just keep looking. Like, here's the thing. I keep taking off my glasses because I keep getting distracted by what Hog is writing.
Right. Oh, what does he write? This is really morbid, and I hate myself for thinking this. But what do you think if it was one of those Make-A-Wish kids and their wish was go? Man, I'm sure Jerry Lewis would have a field day with that. I'm sure he'd do it. Although honestly, I'll go out and bet. I bet you they'd probably do it. They'd set him up with a really great room at Circus, and they just have a great day at the Adventure Dome. I believe they could make that happen.
Okay, Hog. Here's what you do. If it's one of the Make-A-Wish kids, and this makes everybody happy, you take them to Laughlin and tell them it's Vegas. That makes me happy. The kid doesn't know any better. He's happy. That's a win-win right there.
Man, come do him a favor. Kick him something. Oh no, I guess they got a water park out there, so that'd be all right.
Yeah, you're right. That's too cruel to do to anybody.
Can you help him out a little bit? Last wish.
I'm very sorry. That was out of line. You're right. We can't wish Laughlin on it. No, Laughlin's a good time. Laughlin is a good time.
No, definitely. But if you're expecting Vegas, it's a little different.
Okay, here's the compromise. You take him to State Line with Whiskey Pete's and what's the other one with a roller coaster? Buffalo Bills.
Okay, there you go. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't mind Buffalo Bills myself. That'd be a good time.
Because even technically it's not Vegas, but it's near Vegas, and you could just say, "Hey, look, this is what Vegas is."
Discount Vegas. That's all you need to know. This is a short version. It's the abridged version.
3 casinos. Yeah, right? 3 casinos at a gas station.
Right. That's when you use the Terribles app.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. We're coming up on the top of the hour here. So final thoughts. Kids on Vegas. Let's just go ahead and go by age and get your opinion. So we're talking like babies and toddlers in Vegas. Yes or no?
Keep them home.
All right. So that's probably a big no on that. All right. That's a no. Yeah. All right. We're talking, kids. So let's say school age kids. That's like 5 to 12.
Ideally, you could take them to Vegas. Keep them off strip.
Keep them off strip. All right. And your teenager.
Go get an Airbnb.
All right. There you go. And then what about your teenager? Teenager goes to Vegas. Yes or no?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll definitely say no babies in Vegas. I might okay toddlers in Vegas off strip at a nice hotel where you guys can walk around and there aren't problems. No casino. School age children, that's a hard no from me. I apologize. I apologize to Robin and Batgirl for that one, but you two are not coming to Vegas. Under 12, certainly not young ladies. And Nightwing, that goes for you. That's my nephew. He's coming up on his 2nd birthday actually next month here, and I'm sure he's gonna ask about it. And Uncle Ace says no. So there's that. I'm gonna say older teen. We'll go ahead and get them amped up, get them inundated. In college, absolutely all expenses paid. I'll take him out there.
Yep, absolutely. Like nothing better than celebrating your 21st birthday in Vegas.
Exactly. Good times. Set you up with $1,000. Yeah. Set you up with $1,000. Take your friends out. I don't want to see you till 4:00 the next morning.
I like that. You're not allowed to come back to the room until 4 a.m.
Exactly. I'm going to be watching TV with your mother. Go away.
But yeah, I 100% agree. That's you're 21, you're in Vegas, go have a ball.
Nice. All right. Good times. All right. Well, that's all the time we have today. Wanted to go ahead and give Cris one more special thanks for coming out today. Faces and Vases, if you haven't checked him out, is www.facesandacesLV.com. Also at Twitter, Faces and Aces LV. And then I've got his YouTube link in the description box below. Don't forget to go ahead and drop by, comment, and subscribe, because he's going to be doing some big stuff with that YouTube channel. And if he wasn't, well, I just kind of strong-armed you into it, didn't I?
Yeah, we're going to do a complete refurbish of the YouTube channel. It'll take me a little bit of time, and eventually we'll get around to it. Hopefully I'll get to updating that channel before, say, Ellis Island gets the front yard done.
Nice. I like it. All right, awesome. Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to go ahead and say Ace of Vegas is signing out. Strong hands, happy spinning. And, Cris, do you have a sign out that you normally do?
But boy, it's a long one, so I'll just say, hey, everybody, thank you for listening, and thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Pleasure as always, my friend. Good night, everybody.
Good night.